Welcome back to the NAO show, boys and girls. We are going to break down 5-1 in our rankings for the NAO 23 season, right? 23? No, 22 season. I'm an idiot.
22, 23.
22, 23, whatever. I know I'm going to be first, so everybody else is just fighting for second. So, welcome to the show, boys.
Can't wait to
Hello.
see where you fall in the. Wait! I think your team could be good enough to do just that, Sean.
Don't be setting me up, Tank Top. Don't be setting me up. I wore my 47 shirt to harness my Hall of Fame team that's going to happen. So we're going to jump right in it. Who's the first one on the docket there, Marky Mark?
All right. Coming in at number 5, we have the Prince, Airgate.
All right, here we go.
Number 5. Weird to see you in the middle of the pack like that, but yeah, you're at number 5.
All right.
5th place finished?
We're not going to pull punches? Okay, let's go. Let's do this.
You had a high of 5 and a low of 7, averaged out to 5.8 to come in at number 5 in the rankings. Let's talk over the roster.
I wasn't kidding. I think you have a very clear plan with what you do with your team, and
tell me. I'd love to know what my plan is.
If you're running for office in any way, it would just be upside, and that'd be it. But that's what it is. You got a whole bunch of guys here that you got some serious upside with, and you're anchored by Justin Jefferson. And you made, if I remember right, way back when you made that deal for Joe Burrow, and I wish that we saw what we said about it then, because I know it involved Baker Mayfield, I think. So you turned out pretty good in hindsight.
It was Baker Mayfield in a second, and I got Joe Burrow.
That's pretty good.
And that was just before I moved Deshaun Watson to Marky Mark.
Oh boy. See, that turned out pretty good in hindsight. You have, and you're very young. I don't know the average age around the league, but I imagine you got to be pretty low.
I think the oldest person on my roster, my starting roster, is Joe Mixon. He's about to be 26.
I think, is Goddard older than him?
Wait, Goddard is older.
He's like 27 or something.
28. I apologize.
Mixon.
I can switch Schultz in there, and he's 25. So same thing, right?
But
yeah, I like you got a really nice starting lineup, and I think probably 90% or more of anybody who analyzes fantasy has Jefferson as their number 1. So I think you've definitely got kind of the consensus number 1 wide receiver there. And I me having Chase, I guess some people might put him there, but I think I will go with Jefferson too, because he's got probably definitely less competition on the roster. He's definitely the man there. And they're talking about that they might go away from the run first kind of thing with the new coaches in there. So that could be really something for Jefferson, man. That could really be something.
I'm also on board of, I want to, not that Chase is bad, but I want to see Chase do it again. I would put Jefferson over him because he's done it 2 years in a row. I mean, Chase, you give it 4 years, he could be the number 1 or whatever. But yeah, I agree. Right now, as we said, I had Jefferson as number 1.
I like Jefferson's skill sets a little bit better than Chase, actually. And Chase had a lot of touchdowns. He had some down weeks, so he averaged out really well. I mean, but he had some stinkers, Answer to the question, why the hell didn't you start chasing the Pro Bowl, the NAO Pro Bowl? Well, if you look at the weeks before that, it was kind of hard for me to make much of an argument to get him in there. So I think Jefferson is a little more consistent, better skill set all around. So I think you got the top one. And Where did you draft him, Sean? Was it first round or second?
Who? Justin Jefferson?
Yeah.
107.
You did pick him in the first round. Okay.
I think it was. He's either 107 or 106. I drafted him.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, you were high on him, and I didn't know if I was that high on him, but he certainly has proven me wrong. I'll give you a little good news I heard today. Someone out of the Los Angeles Rams, like a beat writer, said that Cam Akers did not take a vacation. He has been at the facility most days by 8 o'clock in the morning, working his ass off. So that guy's serious about coming back from that injury, man. So
Yeah, I think when he came back, I think everyone that was watching him thought he had lost a couple steps, and I think it's just because he came back so early, trying to help the team get to the Super Bowl win. And honestly, I don't even know if he really even helped them all that much. He was there, but it was all Stafford, Cup, and company that got him
the run blocking was pretty much garbage. Nobody really did well, and I think the good news out of last season is that they kind of gave him the workhorse role coming back off that injury. So I think the coaching staff is telling you they have confidence in him. And
well, I thought they kind of cemented their interest in him when they got rid of Sony Michel when he came back. And because Sony Michel got brought to the team when Cam went down and he was supposed to do the Cam part, which he did. But when Cam came back and he looked halfway decent, not 100%, obviously. We all know that he wasn't 100%. But obviously, he showed them something that they can be like, all right, we don't need you, Sony. You can kick sticks.
I think we talked about him last week too, but with Marlon Mack, he was a healthy scratch for how many weeks, and at least Akers came back and played. So, and they're playing him in meaningful games. So,
yeah.
Which you always talk about
the
trade for him, and if he comes back and looks pretty well, I think you can revisit the trade where you got him in. You still don't get Pittman back, but could be okay.
Yeah. I like that trade. The only thing I don't like about that trade is that I didn't get a first round pick for Pittman. If Cam Akers comes back and smashes, it kind of lessens that blow for me a little bit. But I had to wait a whole year for it to happen, though. I wanted to know your guys' opinions on Smith and Brandon Ayuk. What do you guys think about those last two players on my flex spot?
I think there's a lot of talk about Smith mostly this year because of AJ Brown going there and stuff. And I think the positive for Smith is he did a lot of his work on very low volume last year. So people talking that AJ is going to be wide receiver 1, I think that's right, but I don't think that Smith needs to be, getting a ton of targets, a ton of work to do a lot of damage. I think mostly it falls on Jalen Hurts. What can he do? I don't think. And right now, I'm a little pessimistic. I don't think he can support 2 wide receiver 1s. But you have the luxury of flexing Smith, so he doesn't necessarily have to be a 1 for him to be a lock on your roster.
Right.
But I think he'll be fine. I think it'll take a little bit though. I think that offense might take a few weeks to really get rolling.
I'm cautiously optimistic on Smith. I think that Brown being out there, if he draws the top coverage or double coverage, man, Smith's going to kill some people, man. He's going to, because he can already get open on his own. So if he's got one guy that's checking him, then he can really get open and get something going on. I say cautiously optimistic because I hear people talking about, oh yeah, they're going to pass a lot more. I don't know where they're getting that from, man. I mean, would you, with the way Hurts played, would you have him passing a lot more, or would you
do what winning games when they were running the football? So
yeah, I mean, when he was passing a lot, they weren't good. When they started running the ball more, they started winning games. They have a really good offensive line. They can run the ball. Hurts is gonna have his carries. He's gonna tuck the ball and run at times. I don't think they're gonna. I don't know why people are saying they're gonna pass more until it happens. I'm saying, hey, there's going to be games where Smith can smash, but if you're thinking that they're going to start passing 35 times a game, you're probably mistaken.
Yeah,
So it's just that's what I say, cautiously optimistic, because I think Smith is good, can get open, and will do fine. It's just how much volume is it going to be? So, and you got AJ there that they paid a lot of money, and they're going to try to get him the ball too. So, how about
AJ Brown went to when he got traded on draft day. I was actually pretty happy because I think Smith has that juju upside as the wide receiver too, and it, like what Tank Top said, it all falls on what Hurts is going to do. When the Steelers did it, Ben wasn't going to run nowhere. He was going to throw the ball. It was going to be a run play. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Hopefully that good offensive line gives Hurts a little more time. He's got a couple more targets to look at. And I really think this year is a defining year for Hurts because he's got two top wide receivers. He's got Goddard. Miles Sanders still good out of the backfield. I mean, he doesn't have many excuses why he can't be good,
So the other one he asked about was Ayuk. Mike, what do you think about Ayuk?
I don't know. There's so many question marks right now. I think for San Francisco in that offense, it's tough to know. I think you look at some scenarios. If Debo stays, it obviously changes. If he leaves, who knows? I don't know if Ayuk can profile as like a any bit of their top offensive guy. But if it looks like Debo's going to stay, they're kind of mending that relationship, which I think helps Ayuk in the long run. Um, who's their quarterback? How good is that even going to be? There's so many question marks for me on that one. I mean, it's not that I wouldn't want to roster Ayuk because he's talented, but yeah, there's a lot of question marks on how effective he's going to be, I think, through the season.
Yeah, there's not much I can add to that. You kind of nailed it there. My biggest reason, if I had Ayuk, the reason I would be the happiest, or I shouldn't say happiest because it might sound bad. The reason I'd be optimistic, I guess, is because Debo has been injury prone. He finally played most of the season or all of the season last year, and but he just plays hard. He goes at it hard, and he initiates a lot of contact. And I think a big reason he's trying to get paid is I think even he knows that he's had issues there and one injury and huh?
I said there's an expiration date on that,
Yeah, he's probably thinking, man, I could get hurt and be done, and for maybe ruin my chance to get a good contract. So I really think that's part of the reason he's going after that contract so hard. So if yeah, to me, if anything was to happen to Debo, he probably becomes the number one receiver. Like I said, though, with a quarterback, you don't know who's going to be throwing him the ball, what kind of offense they're going to run. If it's Lance, like a lot of people say, there might be a lot more RPOs. So there's a lot of question marks. Just like with Smith there, these are both really talented guys, and we just have to see how things shake out for the teams.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I feel on both of them. I did put Brandon Ayuk up on the trade block trying to upgrade, but it seems like everybody and their brother are trying to do that, so it's probably not going to happen. But that's pretty much why I did that, because they're both kind of like question marks for me. Ayuk more than Smith. I think I have more confidence in Smith than I do Ayuk, because Ayuk is kind of a head case too. But there's, like Mike said when we started this, he's got some upside.
Well, I'll just finish up with yours by saying that we talked about. I think we mentioned depth with all the guys last week that we talked about.
Yeah,
I think you got some decent depth. There's not any wide receivers on your bench that I feel good about, but you got 5 in your starting lineup, so it's like you still have depth, you know. You got the depth. It's just that you don't have a lot of guys on the bench. But I like your 2 quarterbacks. I like your running backs that you got, you know, and Henderson, Pierce, Darrell Williams, Allaire maybe does something finally, you know. And I like your tight ends. You know, Hooper coming on. You know, a lot of hype about him right now. Okwebanam, you know, could be the guy Schultz that you got for a, you know, freaking song last year. And I think with
Waiver
Gallup,
pickup of the year besides
yeah,
Renfro.
I think with Gallup out that Schultz will be the number 2 guy there early on. We'll see what, you know, Tolbert and, you know, some of the other guys do, but I think Schultz has already got the rapport with Dak, and it could be kind of CD and Schultz until Gallup gets
Go.
back in there. So what do you guys think about the depth there? I think it's good. I like it, and I think, you know, now that we're getting up number 5 and moving up, yeah, we should start seeing better depth, and you definitely have some.
Yeah, I don't dislike your depth, but I don't love your depth. I think I'm right, sort of 5th overall with with your depth. I think you have some viable, matchups depending on when bye weeks fall for your starters. Make the right call, and I think you'll be fine week to week, except week 7. I think yours week 7 is a little rough, isn't it?
Yeah, week 7 is a
Is that your
they say.
that's your apocalypse, is it?
Yeah, I got 4 people on my starting lineup that are on bye.
Ouch.
I don't have the depth for that. I think you both hit it pretty squarely on the head of the nail. My wide receiver
Right in the
depth
coffin.
is straight trash, but I have a little bit of running back depth. I'm not worried about quarterback at all. Like, I think Derek Carr could be a solid quarterback. Maybe even make it hard for me to pick who I'm starting week to week. And yeah, I got plenty of freaking tight ends. If somebody wants to come take one off my hands, I'm looking for something other than tight end. Thanks.
Feels like there's a story there.
There may or may not be a story there, but we can moving on.
All right, let's go to our number 4th ranked team, and that is yours truly, McJammer, coming in at 4th, a high of 3 and a low of 5, so right there at the average of 3.3, coming in at number 4. Talk about this lovely roster that I'm looking at.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, you go ahead.
All right, so first and foremost, you got Chase. Like you were saying about Justin Jefferson, he's probably the 1B. I saw both of them play on the same field. I think Chase is a better deep ball guy. He's more bang for your buck kind of guy. But Justin Jefferson was more ready for the NFL. I think, but it's like slight difference. And then you got Burrow throwing to him, which they already have rapport, what have you. Chase, you're never going to have to worry about him. He is literally a start it and forget it type guy. A-Bomb, quest for 6. He is not an advocate of a wide receiver that just gets paid. So McLaurin, in his eyes, probably would be on the downslide. But who the hell else are they going to throw the ball to? You know what I mean? Like, McLaurin's going to get targets all day. I like Hollywood Brown and Sutton. Sutton could be a crazy pickup for a late second round pick. Mike, is that what you sent it for?
Yeah, it was a 209.
We talked
209.
We talked about all this.
Sutton might be worth the first round pick by the end of this year. So those are like some solid guys for your starting lineup. No reason why you wouldn't be ranked 4th. High of ranked 3. That's pretty good. The only questions I have about your starting lineup, is Elliott, and then Mitchell, because Elliott's been kind of on the downslide, and Pollard's been on the upside. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. And then Mitchell, only because there hasn't been the same leading rusher in the 49ers backfield for the last like 6 years or something like that. So
Yeah.
I hope Mitchell kills it because we have stock in him in another league. But yeah, they're the only questions I have about your starting lineup.
Well, I'm going to disagree 100% about Zeke. Pretty hardcore. I think.
Oh, okay. Shocked. Okay.
Well, if you look at Zeke week to week, and you know when he got injured, I think he'll come back. He'll be perfectly fine. He still finished top 10 last year as well, so he actually finished better than he did the year before, which is not a downslide.
So eat it
That is
Monday.
actually
Got it.
that is actually an upslide in year-to-year finishes. But anyway, I actually do. I think that I don't regret moving on Zeke when I had, but I think that he still is going to have a top 10 finish this year. I know a lot of people are actually pretty low on Zeke that I see, and I kind of don't. No offense to you directly, I kind of don't understand it on people being that low on Zeke, and I know you're going to hold him. And if anyone's holding him, I'm glad it's you.
I think where the mindset for being down on Zeke is kind of relative. Like, when people draft Zeke, it's like top 4 people off the board, right? And for somebody being drafted that high, you want them to be in the top 2 or top 3 in their position, if not overall fantasy. Like being top 10 in running backs. Was it running backs or overall?
His position.
His position. Being that at that level, you should be getting him at like the end of the first round, beginning of the second round in a 12 team. Probably more towards the middle on a 10 team league. But yeah, I think he's going to be great, and having him in a flex spot is way better than having him in a 1 or 2 running back spot. So it's all relative.
His lowest finished ever was RB13, just outside of RB1. And he's actually being drafted this year in the 4th round. I think his ADP.
What?
Yeah, his ADP is in the 4th round.
That's crazy low.
I'll certainly be taking a look in redraft leagues because that's a good value, I think. They said he was playing through.
Second round, be happy is a clam.
Yeah, this is the first year that he's not going, somewhere in the first or early second. So I feel okay about him. They said he had the injury last year. I think he's still got something left, and their line may not be as good as it has been in the past, but they still got some decent guys on the line, and they kind of retooled that this year, and I think he'll be fine. I'm not too worried about him. I mean, I know that I'm kind of gonna ride this horse to the end. I really probably can't trade him for much, and so I'll ride it out, and I think he'll be okay for at least this year. I think this may be his last year with Dallas. I think they got an out on him, and they can't keep paying him that money. But I think this could be his last hurrah, and it might be a good one if he stays healthy this year.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the key. The year before last he seemed pretty obvious he gave up when Dak went down.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it sucks to see as a fan, but he saved some miles on his legs. So on the other end of that, I get it.
Yeah.
So and then last year, still 1,000-yard rusher. Didn't he crack 1,000 yards? Oh, an extra game, but he's still 1,000-yard rusher. So yeah, I think if you're still top 10, I'd give him a go this season and feel pretty good about it.
Well, what people forget, I don't know where. I think through the first 6 games before he got that little knee injury there, he was top 5. I think I don't know exactly where, but I think he was like top 5, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was tearing it up. So everybody, it's what have you done for me lately, right? So everybody remembers the stretch and where he just didn't look as good. But then we find out that he had a meniscus problem, and it makes a lot of sense. And he was out there trying to play through it. So anyway, I didn't mean to go so much on about him, but Mitchell, I think he got a good point about Mitchell there. That's definitely a stat that you can't ignore. And I went out and got Sermon this year, hoping that I've got the other guy there that could be the number 7, the 7th guy in 7 years to lead. Didn't have a great season, but another guy I was listening to here recently, San Francisco dude, was saying that they drafted Sermon as Lance's guy. He's supposed to be in the Lance offense, like more RPO kind of stuff, you know. So I'm interested to see if that's true. If Lance plays, then does Sermon get a little more time, and does he do what they thought he was going to do? So I'm interested to see that. So I feel all right though having those two. It's good to have one backing up the other.
I think the difference between my lineup and your lineup, which made the difference between 4 and 5, is your running back depth. There is not one of these running backs that I would not want on my team. Like, start at the top, Tony Pollard. Obviously, he's flex worthy. If anything were to happen to Zeke, knock on wood, he is definitely the number 1 guy going to be in there. You got Naheem Hines. He's the number 1 guy right behind Jonathan Taylor. Melvin Gordon, he stands on his own 2 legs, even with Williams in there. There might be a slight change of snap percentages and carries and what have you this year, but who the heck knows what that offense is going to look like now that they actually got a good wide receiver depth, and the quarterbacks getting the ball out to everybody in the Russ. And then you got Sermon as your backup for Mitchell. The only one I couldn't give a poop about is Boone. Like, obviously he's just taking up space on your depth, but this might be a shocker because I am a Mixon and P. Ryan owner, but I think Chris Evans is going to be the backup for Mixon moving into this year. So if any one of those guys goes down, you got another starting running back, and I think that depth is significant when you're talking about running backs. And if you want depth, you want it in running back, and you got it in running back. The only other thing I'd like to make a comment about is the Pickett and Pickens connection. I see what you're doing over there, Marky Mark. I see it. If that hits, that's going to be a very cool little stack you can throw in when Kyler Murray's on bye. You just throw both of them in there at the same time, and you double up those points. I get what you're doing. See. What do you think there, Mike?
I think if we're going to go back into your starting lineup here for a second,
All right.
I don't know about you, but I was pretty excited about McLaurin getting that extension there. I know you could dream about McLaurin going to any roster and being their one, but I think McLaurin, he's had some cruddy quarterbacks and he's performed pretty well. It's weird to say, but I think Wentz is an upgrade going into this year.
I agree. I agree on both those points.
Wentz is just boring. He's just not very exciting, and he's not particularly great. But I think he's an upgrade. I think McLaurin is going to be fine with him there. I don't want to make it about my team, but like as the Dotson guy, I was excited for that too because I think they're going to be a pretty good duo there.
Yeah.
I don't. It's funny that A-Bomb is the one that hates the extensions because he has Adams and Hill, but
that's out of necessity, not want.
But I don't mind the extension stuff, although I think there are some stats kind of supporting it, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I was pretty excited about that the other day for both of us. So.
Yeah, no, McLaurin had 8 different quarterbacks so far, and it's not been good. And Wentz definitely is certainly not any worse than any of those guys, and maybe can kind of get a little bit of return to form. I think about I think didn't Wentz have Alshon Jeffrey early on when he first started, and
Yeah. I
to
hate
me,
it.
to me, McLaurin is he's not the same as he's not the same build, but he's the
Way better.
same he's the same type of contested catch guy, and he gets a lot of contested targets. Of course, I mean, I don't know that the quarterback play's been bad, so they've just been throwing the ball up to him. But that kind of goes to show that whoever the quarterback is thinks that McLaurin is the guy that if you're in trouble, just throw it up to him and see what he can do. So.
He's down there somewhere.
I'll just make a comment on Boone. I mean, I probably wouldn't have Boone if I didn't already have Javante and Gordon, but I may as well, get the triple stack. I think Boone has done well when he's had opportunities. He was hurt last year. I think he's still got a little gas in the tank, and he's a gently used running back. Got him on
Lightly
eBay.
used running
Got him
back.
on eBay, gently used, and so yeah, I probably wouldn't have him on my roster if I didn't have the other two. But I good pick up on the Pickens Pickett. I was definitely going for that. But what I really like about when I look at my bench receivers and see Elijah Moore, Tim Patrick, and Brandon Cooks, I'm pretty happy, man. I mean, any injuries, and I can roll with these guys. 5 weeks, I can roll with these guys. Any of them break out, start doing well, they might be up there over some of the other flex. So I'm liking my roster, but of course I'm biased. So
I was actually not in a bad way. You made some really nice moves this offseason, and when I looked at your team, I was like pleasant. I was like, this is a pretty good looking roster. Like, not that it was
thanks.
bad before, but like the moves that you've made have made it justifiably fourth overall on our rankings. So
Let's hope so. If I have another year like last year, you're gonna see a grown man cry right here on the NAO show.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Oh,
That's good
thank you.
television.
Thank you. All right, I guess we'll move on. Unless you guys got anything else, we can. Moving on to the number 3 ranked team, Tank Top Mike. Man, we were 3 in a row here. How do you like that? So had a high of 2 and a low of 4, average of 3.0. Number 3 team in the NAO, Tank Top Mike. So let's talk about that roster.
So I want to talk about the difference in his running back depth and his wide receiver depth. So I think it's very difficult to figure out which one he's doing better at. Like, all right, so he's got one, two, three absolute starters, could be RB1s on anybody's team in Eckler, Kamara, and Swift. They could be ones on anybody's team, and you could build the team off any of those. Mike's got all 3 of them. Let's just start there. Then when we go to wide receivers, he's got this guy named Cooper Kupp that I love to bring up what he paid for him. Let's turn back the clock a little bit and see what Mike paid for Cooper Kupp, Ron Jennings, and Zach Moss, and he got a 3rd round pick to take Kupp off his hands.
Wait, what was it?
So
Zach Moss
Mike
and
got
who?
Kupp and a 3rd round pick for Josh Reynolds,
Josh
and
Reynolds.
Zach Moss, right? Let's just talk about how many yards Cooper Kupp had last year. 1,947 fucking yards. And you paid Zach Moss and Josh Reynolds for this dude.
now, since they're not here, I guess it just was him at the time. Since Ricky's not here to defend himself, I will slightly. But after that trade, I remember on the show there was a whole lot of, "Are you sure you wanted to send away Zach Moss?" So sure, now it looks terrible. I don't think anybody would say that. But at the time, there was a whole lot of, "What do you mean you're sending young running back depth for Cooper Kupp?" I remember.
That sounds
I
like something.
I feel like that's something I would say.
I think sounds like something I might have said too. I think I was higher on Moss about a year ago than I am at this point. So yeah,
Okay, so the only question I have about your starting lineup, Tank Top, is who the heck is going to be throwing the football to DJ Moore, and why is he not going to throw it to any? Why is that person ever going to look at anybody else other than DJ Moore? Every time, whoever the quarterback is in Carolina, they just need to hike it, throw the ball to DJ Moore, and just hope for the best. Because that is, besides CMC. I mean, if CMC is not hurt for the 900th time, DJ Moore is good. But yeah, I love your lineup. You want to trade? 1 for 1 right now.
it's a whole lot he said there. What are we going to unpack here?
I think Gesicki is your weakest point on your starting lineup.
Is what?
Is your weakest point.
What is? I didn't hear you.
Gesicki.
Oh, well, I mean, he's a top 10 tight end. But...
I got 2 top 5 tight ends.
Yeah, you can. I mean, do you start him, Bo?
Well, you could start one, and I could start one. We can make a deal here.
I've said this before, Ian, but I didn't trade for Gesicki to be
Whoa!
a top 20 tight end. I traded for Gesicki to be exactly what he is. I got exactly what I wanted. I got exactly what I paid for. I have no problems with
it. Order in the court.
The cost to go up a tier was too much. I got tight end 9.
Well, since we're talking about tight end, you got Ingram down there that finally kind of looks good to me in Jacksonville, especially with new coach. I can't think of his name right now, which sucks. It's not like he's not a known guy. Can't think of the guy's name, but the guy that was with the Eagles and used the tight end quite a bit in his offense. I think Ingram maybe could do a little something there if he can stay healthy, and I don't think they have much else there. So you might have a good option there. Mo Alley Cox, I mean, it's probably not going to happen if it hasn't happened yet. But at least you got Ingram who could be a little something there. But Gesicki, you do have to wonder about him with Hill coming in there. Waddle is kind of, to me, is the guy that is going to get those types of targets that Gesicki might get. So, but you're right. You got what you paid for. He's on.
The funny thing about Ingram is there was a lot of trade talks with Evan, and he would want Evan Ingram, and no, he would want either Njoku or Ingram, and whenever one he wanted, I'd try to send the other one. And now he has Njoku, and I kept Ingram, so we'll see what happens with both of them because they're both trending up as well. So
yeah, I'm skeptical on Njoku too. Again, if it hasn't happened by now, what do you? They paid him a lot, but I mean, that doesn't mean he's going to all of a sudden start tearing up as a receiver. He could be. They do a lot of 2 tight end stuff there. So my biggest question for you, Mike, though, is what do we do with Kamara? I guess you're gonna you got Jacobs, probably a good pickup for you since Kamara's probably going to be out for, they're saying, maybe 6 games or so.
Yeah, secretly, maybe not so secretly. I don't know. Jacobs wasn't necessarily Kamara insurance, but that was a small thought going after a guy like that. Not that James Conner couldn't have been, but I preferred to make a different kind of move. But yeah, there was a little bit about that. I think week 1, that's definitely going to be what it is if Kamara misses that week. I'm pretty happy. I still have Tony Jones. I don't think that he's going to be much. I think if it's going to be anybody, Abram Smith is, could creep in those 6 weeks. Obviously, not worried about anybody taking Kamara's job in 6 weeks that's on that roster or anything. So, I think I think I have the right backup. I'm not too worried about Mark Ingram. He's like 800 years old, so we'll see about that. And like I've said before, I've heard on some pretty trusted podcasts that Abram Smith is a guy that people are excited about, and I was as well. So
I like him. I think that was a good. Would you get him in the fifth round, or was it supplemental?
I think he was supplemental.
Yeah, because he's a guy that I was eyeballing for, um, like maybe a taxi stash, pickup and stash kind of guy. I had some guys ahead of him, but he was right there. Like I'm like, if this guy stays out there, I'll be trying to stash him on the taxi. Pick him up for free if I can. But he ended up going fifth round and in a lot of drafts. So I got him one time, and that was after I missed on him a few times. I was like, okay, I got to get Abram this time, man. I've missed him every other time. So I think that was a good one for you, late. That could be a diamond in the rough there. And I do like Khalil Herbert too a lot. I think that was a great fifth round pick last year, and I've never been real big on Montgomery. He's had the volume and he's done okay. I think Herbert just is a better running back, and I don't know what they'll do there, but I think Herbert, if he gets a chance, he's going to do like we saw last year. He's going to get in there and tear it up. So I like that.
Yeah. I was going to make a comment about your depth too, and the first person that I was going to talk about was Josh Jacobs, and I thought that was a fantastic pickup on your end, and being able to have that security in your bench if something were to happen to AK when it was all kind of coming out and there was nothing in stone yet, but there was potential. Then you went out and got Josh Jacobs to kind of give you a parachute a little bit. I think that was a very, very astute manager play, and I think I like a couple of your wide receivers. Claypool, he has some really good upside. We'll see what happens with a solid, at least an upgrade at quarterback with the ghost of Christmas past, Ben Roethlisberger, being gone. And like we had already spoken on this podcast, Dotson is a diamond in the rough, I think. He is cleared hot for wide receiver 2, and if he can make some stuff happen, he could be a solid pickup.
Yeah,
Mikey,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say on Dotson, we traded. I got Sutton, and traded you Dotson, and I told you I was gonna get Dotson there if I didn't trade, I was gonna get Dotson there. But just just tell us what your thought process was and your evaluation on Dotson, why you went after him so hard there and gave up a kind of a known commodity for a younger guy.
Yeah, there was. Well, I guess right now Ian is screaming at his computer. He's telling me to say, "Watch the tape." That's what he wants me to say right here. But I mean, there was a lot of question marks on Dotson. Obviously, that people had. He's undersized. There's all sorts of whatevers. And then the other side is just straight up draft capital, but also the Commanders or whatever they are, that they just suck. Honestly, I felt like he was a guy that once he gets onto an NFL roster, he can take that next step. Um, just, I don't know. I don't remember really.
I'm comparing Dotson to Devontae Smith, which I think is a pretty good comparison. Maybe not with school, like with Smith coming from Alabama and Dotson coming from Penn State. Let's go Penn State, even though I'm an LSU fan. Godwin came from Penn State. So Dotson is an inch shorter, 2 inches shorter, a year younger, but he's also 12 pounds heavier than Smith. So where everybody was worried about Smith not being able to be big enough to take the hits in the NFL, Dotson's got that weight, and he's a little shorter. He might be even a little quicker. So who knows? I don't really buy into the whole he's too small to be a wide receiver because there's plenty of small wide receivers that did really, really well. So
I guess what I'll go with is thinking about the conversation we had with Ian and Ricky had about draft or player analysis, without giving too much away or anything. He hit the stats that I wanted him to hit. He hit the player profile stuff that I wanted him to hit. And I was, like Sean said, I wasn't concerned about the size or anything like that going into the NFL. I honestly, the first round draft capital was cool. It kind of, it didn't really matter too much to me about that. It slid anyway for almost everybody else, but yeah, he hit enough of what I wanted a player to profile at, and he hit, so I went after him. Like I said before, I know I overpaid. I don't care.
no, I don't think you overpaid at all.
Oh, you're definitely wrong. I overpaid. You don't have
If
to. You don't got to wrestle I overpaid.
If I'd have gotten that third from you, I might say you overpaid because I would have taken Zamir White and you wouldn't have had him backing
Oh, that
up.
would have been an overpay.
You wouldn't have
That
had him
would-
backing up. But no, I mean, I think you definitely you went from the known commodity, but you traded some age for some youth.
Well, that's what a lot of it was, and I felt confident enough with the depth that I had that moving on a guy like Sutton would be okay. I honestly tried for Claypool for a long time on that pick instead, but I knew Claypool wouldn't work for you obviously because of Pickens.
Right.
So it was either slightly overpay and get the guy I want, or lose out on it. So yeah.
I think the history says that guys that size don't succeed a lot in the NFL. I think he could be an exception, and we could be seeing, going back to Devonta Smith, like you said there, Sean, we might be seeing that trend change a little bit because these guys are different type of athletes now that can avoid contact. They can get good separation. They can avoid contact. They're such good athletes and so quick, and of course the league
more protected by the rules too.
Yeah.
So they're not getting slammed by safeties coming out of nowhere and whacking them.
Well, the league went. They had a lot of bigger receivers, so they started going to bigger cornerbacks. That's sort of the trend. And now these little receivers are a lot more shifty than the big cornerbacks. So and safety. So yeah, I'm interested to see a few years from now, do some of these guys change the historical stats, So for me, it was sort of like I stared him down in a couple of drafts, and this was the one draft where I'm like, okay, unless I can make a good trade, I'm going to take him because I had passed on him in some others. But I kind of honestly think that he could be somebody that could break that trend. He seems to be a little bit different than a lot of these smaller receivers that have not panned out in the NFL. So I'm kind of we'll see what happens. I'm hoping Sutton, makes me not regret it, but I'm also kind of pulling for him because I just want to see how it goes with him. All right, we talked a lot about Mike's here. I'll just finish up, Mike, with the fact that I voted today that 2 firsts was too much for Cup. I'm going to stand by that. I think he's too old. So good luck with him, man. If you can trade him for those 2 firsts, you should take it all day long. And that's all I got to say about that.
I think 2 firsts and a second and an upside guy is kind of where I would be for Cup.
I don't know. I think with some of these guys, I think age at 29 obviously is a little, it's historically been older than anybody would want 2 firsts for. But I think a guy like Cup's game ages really well. He doesn't necessarily rely on speed. A guy like Tyreek Hill at 29, like Deshaun Jackson, relied on speed, fell off the face of the earth when he lost that. But a guy like Cup, like Keenan Allen, I don't think anybody expects Keenan Allen to have necessarily a down year right now or anything like that because he relies on route running in his hands. I think, and obviously Cup, he came in late. He's only got 5 years or something. I think we said. So he's got less
Yeah,
miles on
5
his
years.
legs, than some of these other guys as well. I just think his game ages well to where 29. I'm not, or going into year 29. Not too worried about it. I don't think like it's one of those where he is old enough that I don't think every team would pay two firsts. But I think that if it was, there are teams that if they wanted a guy like Cup to win the championship, yeah, two firsts, I think would do it. I will say, in a serious way, three firsts would have been my actual vote. But I feel like
Okay.
two firsts or the value thereof, I feel like would have been fair for almost every team. But three firsts would have been pushing.
Still, though, at 2 first, you're looking for a little something extra.
I probably would. I would probably counter with something more off the value
Yeah.
of two firsts. Yeah.
And that's fair after the season he had. I
Oh,
wish I had him so I could sell him for that. All right. Okay. Well, let's move on to the number 2 team. That is the Underdogs. So they had a high of 1 and a low of 3, average of 1.8. Number 2 team, the Underdogs. We seems like we've had this conversation before. Their average finish is probably a little bit lower than that, but
Just
they
slightly.
they rank really well. They don't finish really well. Is this the year that they finally live up to the ranking? What do you guys think?
I will say, if CMC and Derrick Henry, more CMC, Derrick Henry had 1 year where he missed a couple games, and he still led the league halfway through his injury in rushing. You know what I mean? It took the league like 3 or 4 games to even catch up to the poor guy. If CMC stays healthy, this is going to be a freaking stupid team to go up against. Like, running back 1 and 2 alone could put up 50 points. Like 25 points each, if not more. Like that is a floor play that is most people's ceiling play. You know what I mean? So just that stack of CMC, Derrick Henry, best 2 running backs, uh, besides maybe Jonathan Taylor right now. It's scary to look at. Absolutely scary.
So I've said before that the Underdogs had my favorite team in the league, and they made a lot of changes since I've said that, and they still might be my favorite team in the league. Sorry guys. Sorry to Evan specifically for probably jinxing all that work again. But yeah, I do like their team again. Like Sean said, nice running back stack. CD
And then they
Lamb,
have like their running back 3 and running back 4 are
Yeah.
freaking solid as fuck too.
and CD Lamb is now a true wide receiver one, so we'll get to see what he can do in that offense. AJ
Let's
Brown, he went from a bad team to a less bad team in terms of like passing volume and stuff. So somehow they got better. Bateman turned out to be the right bet on that on the Ravens offense. So they're set up to do pretty well again. I think their success comes down to Daniel Jones somehow. I don't know why, but Evan has been really high on Daniel Jones, and he got him. So their team
All right,
goes as Daniel
let's
Jones.
hear your predictions on Daniel Jones if the underdog season is pivoting. Oh, I hate that word. On Daniel Jones. What's your prediction on Daniel Jones?
I think Daniel Jones is going to throw almost exclusively to Kenny Galladay, who you guys,
don't say.
offensively skipped over on my depth, who I think could end up being one of the best trades of all time.
I was gonna mention him.
I was not going to mention it.
I mean,
When you all come running to trade for Kenny Galladay, Sean, you're immediately out.
Oh, I will die on my stoop before I even mention a trade for Kenny Galladay.
You're going to be, here's Justin Jefferson and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm going to say no. I'm gonna say no.
That will never happen. I don't know. I don't care how many gummies I've eaten or how many beers I've drinking. That would never happen.
Drinking. That's a new one.
Drank.
Drinking.
Also,
Sounds
Michael
like it's-
Thomas is on their bench, and he's looking,
Yeah.
So there you go.
I love the Prescott Lamb stack. Sean and I have that in that secret league, and so
In the secret league.
we'll celebrate with them every week that they smash. I'm really excited about Bateman. I had him number 2 last year behind Chase, and with Hollywood out of there, I think we'll have to see. I think they're going to go back to more running. All their running backs were hurt last year. Uh, Lamar got hurt last year. I honestly think they're going to go back to their roots, which was more running. But I think there could be one wide receiver, one maybe high end 2 there, and that could be Bateman. So I'm excited to see what he can do this year.
Are you taking into consideration that Mark Andrews is still on the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mark Andrews was also a product of the, Bateman. He was hurt a little bit. He's rookie, still getting his sea legs. Um, I think Andrews was the check down guy. Um, they didn't run it as much, and Andrews was the beneficiary of that. So I think Andrews will probably take a little step back. I think he's still really good. I think he's being overdrafted a little bit though, because if they do go back to the running, and he was Lamar was pushing the ball downfield to Hollywood a lot. That could be Bateman this year, and I just feel like it's that the running backs will take a boost up. So will Lamar if he stays healthy, and Andrews might go back a little bit. Bateman might go up a little bit. This I'll conjecture, of course, but this is just me kind of, they're still the same coaching staff that wants to run the ball. They just really couldn't do it last year with all these guys hurt. So I think they'll get back to the running game, and it'll be a little bit more of a, the passing attack will be a little more precision. It won't be a big wide open passing attack. So
Looking down at their depth, they definitely have one of the best depth. The benches on this team is very, very good. If you ask Evan, Rashad White is the second coming, and he got him on a discount, and nobody else is ever going to move him from him. So hopefully that turns out to be true for him, because Tampa Bay could really use a really, really good young running back. But I think what makes their depth so good is their wide receiver depth. They got Chris Olave, really big on him. I'm big on Darnell Mooney. I don't want to spend the money to get him, but I respect the price to get him. Wilson in New York, hopefully he gets in there and he smashes there. Allen Robinson has a huge upside going to the Rams. And then, those are wide receivers you could put in at any point in time, looking forward down the road into this next season. And that's not even to mention that they have KJ Osborne, who, when Thielen went down, he became a solid fantasy asset. So to say that they have a wide receiver to match everybody else's wide receiver is no understatement.
Yeah, they have good depth. They had a good draft, and they have more draft picks. So they're looking good.
yeah, I agree with all that on the wide receivers for sure. They don't have a lot on the bench for running back, but then again, just kind of like you, Sean, with the receivers, when you're starting 5 of them that are all really good, same with these guys. They got 4 of them that are all really good. So if for some reason they could get 2 of those guys get injured, they just start flexing in wide receivers instead. So they probably are okay with what they got. I think I like Gainwell. I think he could kind of we'll see what kind of progression he makes this year. I think he could be sort of a Naeem Hines type where you might be able to flex him now and then in favorable matchups. I think he's going to be. Think he's going to be a good receiving back in the league. I just think White, though, I think he's a good future guy. I don't think he's a this year guy. I think that won't happen unless the guys before him go down. I think a lot of people they're out on Vaughn, maybe for good reason, maybe not, but he had some success in the end of last year, and when Fournette was out, and I think that I still think that Vaughn is going to be the number 2 guy. So I think it would take Fournette and Vaughn going down before White would be the top guy. And did we talk bad about White last week? Evans gave us some crap for saying something bad about Rashad White.
I don't know. Maybe.
Is this 2 weeks in a row?
Even have a thought negative against him. He's like coming at you with knives.
I just keep going back to the fact that as a rookie with Tom Brady, you're not getting out there unless you're special. And you got to be able to block. You got to be able to read the defense, do what you're supposed to do. I don't know that he's, it would be a tall order for him to do that in his first year. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I tell you, they do, looking up and down their roster, they definitely got some good depth. I like Kmet there at tight end. They got Hawkinson in their starting lineup. I like Kmet this year to have a breakout year. And then they went and got Brait, which is not a bad pickup off waivers. Because if Gronk does stay retired, then Brait's probably going to be the guy there for this year anyway. So I think Otten may be the guy of the future, but Brait could be the guy for this year. All right. Any other thoughts on the underdogs? Did you guys say? Do you think is this the year? Is this the year that they finish in the top 4 instead of the bottom 4?
I don't want to say it and be the one that's right.
It's uncanny. Every year they have the roster, but every year it just goes south for one reason or another. So
it's like a shuttle that just gets off the launching pad and just explodes on takeoff.
Yeah, I'll go with third time's a charm. Third year, it's finally going to hit for them. I think they'll be up there in the playoff hunt this year. Don't mean to jinx you guys, but I think they want us to pick against them. So,
we can't do that.
Yeah, no. All right, well, let's move on to our final ranking. The number 1 team this year is the Pooh Crew. Pooh Crew, high of 1, low of 2. So all 5 sites like his roster. Number one ranked. Let's say why we think it's true or no.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
I guess unfortunately for everybody, I don't think there's too many arguments against why he's not number 1 going into the offseason or going into the season again. I will say I think this is the first season that I don't think it should be completely unanimous, which I guess technically it wasn't because the underdogs got a first place vote. So I think to say he has question marks in his lineup for the first time is a little bit of a stretch, but there's definitely some guys that you look at and you think, you know what I mean? I wouldn't give a full question.
Who are those guys? I mean, when you get done, tell me who are those guys too.
Well, he has ETN in his starting lineup, so I have to assume he's comfortable enough to start him week 1, which, it's a tough injury to come back from. He has exactly 0 NFL snaps. So would I not want to trade for him? No, it's not that at all, but I think you have to kind of wonder what can he actually do in the NFL. And then I don't want to say Barkley is injury prone because they're freak injuries, but that offense could look a little weird. It could look a little different this year. Not that I don't think Barkley's going to be a great guy again. This is what I mean, though. Like, there's just guys that it could look a little bit different than we've historically seen Barkley be used in an offense like that. So there's some question marks there. I guess that's really all. And then I guess Higgins. We all know Higgins is slightly touchdown dependent, so we'll see how that pans out next year.
Well, we can keep it going with Metcalf, who
Yeah.
if they don't get a quarterback in there besides Geno or freaking Drew Lock, then Metcalf, we might see a lot of histrionics on the sidelines with this guy. Man, he might be getting a little bit ticked off with the quarterback play.
But yeah, that's
I'd
kind
say
of what Kelsey's 33 years old. So,
Kelsey with the age.
but that's what I mean. Like they're not guys that you don't want on your team. And I see why
Right.
he's number one. But it's the first year. I think there's a little bit of some hope for the rest of us, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think. What's
I
that?
just want to go on the record and say I hate both of you for saying all the bad stuff about fucking Pooh Crew's team. So I have to say something nice about Pooh Crew's team. I feel like you both set this up and talked on the side and were like, hey, let's say all the bad stuff before the Prince gets on.
Well, you could talk
And
about his running back depth. It's a little bit shallow.
What's that?
You could talk about his running back depth being slightly shallow.
Yeah, we left you Dalvin Cook getting a little older. Remember we talked about Deebo Samuel earlier, so
I'm gonna just say Deebo Samuel is gonna regress from last year, and he won't be the person that he's depending upon. And on top of all your all's bad stuff, I hope that happens too. Because down with Ian, down with him. I want him to be out of the playoffs. If I don't make the playoffs and he doesn't make the playoffs, I will consider that a win for me. Because I would be so happy to see him just cry and cry and cry. But oh wait, Silly Dilly is in this league, so if he needs a boost to his roster, Silly Dilly will come in and swoop in and save him. So it's okay.
it's interesting. Almost to a man in his starting lineup, you can, I guess, starting at the top with Herbert and Taylor, I think they're pretty much consensus top guys at the position. But then you go down through the rest, and you can make arguments either way. So it's kind of interesting. It could be a big boom or it could be a big bust. I told him I thought his roster was getting old, and of course he sent me the spreadsheet to tell me why they weren't. So
The spreadsheet. We've all gotten the spreadsheet sent to us.
I stand corrected somewhat, but yeah, you look at Kelsey, Dalvin Cook for a running back at his age. Yeah, a couple of guys there in the starting lineup that are getting a little bit older, but not too bad otherwise. And but question marks there with injuries and other things going on. So, what do we think about his depth there? A lot of people talking about Lance being the guy this year. I tried to trade for him a couple of times to try to get in on that. If he was a starter and he did, have the rushing upside and all that stuff, but he's held pretty tight to him. What do we think though about his depth and some of the guys here on the bench?
I think what we've been saying for the last few rosters, he's got 4 starting running backs, and then he's got Monty on the bench. I mean, that's 5 solid. Well, I would say 4 solid running backs. ETN's kind of on the outs, and just me personally, I don't like Barkley, but a lot of other people do, so I can't really say that he's bad just because I don't like him. So he's got a pretty good depth at running back, which has been one of the factors that has kept him in the top tier the last few years is running back depth. And but I do like 2, maybe 3 of his wide receivers on his bench. Johnson, he'll be okay. He's a pretty good bench guy to have. Kadarius Toney, he has a lot of upside. We'll see how that works. I know that really hurts Galladay foreshadowing from Tank Top earlier, but we'll see. And then if Aaron Rodgers wants to throw to a rookie, Watson is a pretty darn to throw to, but who the hell knows who Aaron Rodgers is going to throw to? So he could be either good or really bad. So, but it's dynasty, and you'll have him for a couple years. And Rodgers will be gone in the next 5 probably. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of nailed it right in the coffin. I think he's got some pretty solid depth all the way down. He can be a little flexible with his running backs for this year. Um, you know, his wide receivers are kind of the same. You have Deontay Johnson there as well. A little bit of question marks with the quarterback in Pittsburgh. There's rumors that it could actually be Trubisky that starts, which I don't think is going to be a terrible thing anyway. I think he got a
No,
little
I
bit
don't.
of the raw end of the deal in Chicago, and I think he'll actually be a little bit better than we remember him. But then you look at when Gallup comes back, how he was, in that offense, and Dallas paid him. They let Amari go and paid Gallup, so he's going to be a focal point when he gets healthy again. So yeah, I mean he's got some pretty good depth, and like you said, somehow he always seems to get bailed out right around like May or so every year. So we'll see. We'll see who he manages to swindle the next May.
There's one other person I'd like to make a comment about. I think Robert Tunyon has a large upside. With Adams being gone, Tunyon is probably the only wide receiver. He's a tight end, but catching position that Aaron Rodgers has any rapport with, and has shown that he would depend on him to throw the ball to him. So Tunyon could be a sneaky good stash this year.
Yeah, I think the rapport with Rodgers is pretty big, but I mean, make jokes about being touchdown dependent, and Tonyan is the actual definition of touchdown dependent.
Yeah, he's 100% touchdown dependent.
Yeah, I hadn't heard great things about him coming off the knee, so well, that's one thing to keep an eye on. But if he's back in there and healthy, then for sure, besides Lazard, he's the only other guy that has much chemistry with Rodgers at this point. As far as Kadarius Toney, man, I'm just tired of hearing about the game against the Cowboys. There's a lot of people that are on the Tony train this year, man, the hype train, and they're like, yeah, man, you see what he did last year, and all they can talk about is that Dallas game. Otherwise, he was hurt a lot, and remember he got kicked out of the Dallas game because he was an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have heard, again, insiders, writers for Giants. There was the tension early on and talking about trading him, and he was kind of a knucklehead, and they say that since that time he's come in and he's been working hard. So I'm glad to hear that because I don't pull against anybody really. I want to see these guys succeed. This is their one chance, and they don't have much time to do it. So I'd love to see him. Build on what he did a little bit last year, but I do get tired of all they talk about is the Cowboys game. I'm like, yeah, sure, because everybody watches the Cowboys games. They're the highest rated games. Yeah, every week that they're on. Roll your eyes, man, but it's true. If you look at the highest rated games, top 10 games every year, the Cowboys are in 5 or 6 of them easily. So a lot of people saw him go off in that game, but he didn't do a lot else. So it's to me it's a small sampling, a little inconsistent. Let's see what he does, but the potential is there if he can have more games like he did against the Cowboys. So, but yeah, good points though. I like DPJ on his bench too. I had him and traded him away, but I think he's a sneaky sleeper in there. Chark could be too if he can do what he's done in the past. But and of course Madison I think is probably one of the best handcuffs to have. It's funny, Madison by himself I'm not crazy about, but Madison playing behind Cook is all right. It seems to work there, so he's got a good handcuff there. I don't know, man. I can see some chinks in the armor though, so maybe it's wishful thinking and hoping that Sean gets his wish that we don't. I don't pull against players. I don't want any of his guys to get hurt. I don't want anybody to, but if things shook out and he was finishing in the Who Cares Bowl, that'd be a lot of fun, man. If he
That
just
would
missed
be
it, and had to play in the Who Cares Bowl after he gives everybody else so much crap for that, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. That'd be a NAO season that I could get on board with.
it'll be fun to face him in the Who Cares Bowl. I'm a two-time recipient of the Who Cares Bowl, so I know how it is. I know where to go. I know which bathroom is the best one to go to when you're there in the stadium.
The Prince in the 3rd annual Who Cares Bowl.
No,
Uh,
plenty of well about it.
I hope not, man. Be top or bottom 4, but please don't finish 5th or 6th this year.
Well, thank you for coming in and listening to the show. That is going to be our 5-1 breakdown. If you listen to last week and this week, you'll get the breakdown from 10-1. Find out that the underdogs are still number 2, and they will probably be in the Who Cares Bowl or worse. This is just science at this point. And if you've seen one show, you've seen them all. And the ending is, you suck, Ian.